Hello, welcome to a Trucking Along bundle set of projects from CJ Card Creations. My name is Christy Hillock. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in Salt Lake City, Utah. And these projects I designed for my team and have decided to open them up to my customers as well. So I hope that you enjoy these and find some different uses for your Trucking Along bundle. If you don't already have it, the punch will be coming back into stock, hopefully early October. And the way the kits for this project set are, you would actually just be able to fussy cut really easily as long as you had the stamp set. So with that, I am going to switch to my desktop. There we go. Let me fix up my lights and we will get started. So the first card that you see here is a Christmas card. And I thought it was really fun that the bundle had a Christmas sentiment. So let me get over to my instructions so I know what I'm doing here and grab my set of supplies for this one. So all of these cards use, yeah, they do. I'll use the Let's Go Fishing DSP from the annual catalog, which has a lot of vanilla tones in it, but also uses a little bit of white and then some kind of more muted fall type colors. I also felt like this was a really easy way to do a more masculine set of projects. So first, I've got a very vanilla thick base, and then I have a piece of Mossy Meadow that is already dry embossed. And I'm just going to adhere this directly to my card base with a little bit of liquid glue. So get that centered up a little better. Nice and straight, and there is that. And this card is probably the easiest of the three, just because it's really just a little bit of stamping. So I'm just laying things out here before I actually adhere anything. So it's going to go roughly like that. And I'm going to go ahead and get my truck stamped. And let me see. I want some Memento black ink for this one. You could also do this with, you know, if you wanted to use a basic gray or a pebbled path, you could do that as well. So I am going to stamp right on there. And you can see this is just pretty straightforward line images. So you could fussy cut this quite easily. But because I have the punch, I'm going to go ahead and use the punch. And it is a builder punch, so you can see you've got the wheels, the, I don't know what those are called, like the wheel wells, I guess, and then a window piece. So get this punched out for us quickly. All right. Now I'm going to bring in my my very vanilla. My circle is missing just a teeny little bit of the edge, so I am going to place my truck to make sure I cover that up. So it's going to go like that. And then the wishing you a festive Christmas sentiment is going to go towards the top of the circle. Let's see, this doesn't have to be as straight as I sometimes get things, but I still want it to be fairly straight and at least the stamp not be crooked. So, all right, so I'm just going to get this right there. And now I need my Christmas tree, which is kind of an interesting stamp because it's cut off, so you're only seeing what would be above the truck bed. And we will grab that. I just want to make sure that I'm not missing. It's been a minute since I did these projects, so I want to make sure that I'm not missing the, like if it's a two-step stamp, but it looks like it's not. So I'm going to close up my memento and grab my Mossy Meadow for the tree. And this ink pad has definitely seen better days and I need to replace it, but I haven't gotten there yet. All right, so I'm just gonna kind of get an idea for where I want it and then pull out my truck and set that down just like that. And there is, yeah, there it is. So there is a detail stamp. I knew it was two-step. All right, let me clean that so I can see to line this up. And I'll put away the filler stamp and grab some ink on my outline stamp here, and then hopefully you can still see what I'm doing. But I just want to line that up just like that. And with two-step stamping, you can certainly go either direction if you want it to, if you want to do the outline first and then do the filler or vice versa. It really just depends on personal preference there. I do it both ways. It's not terribly consistent. Okay, so now that we've got all of that done, I'll close up my Mossy Meadow and we'll go ahead and glue all of these things on. So first, I just want to glue my truck onto the circle, and then the circle is actually going to get popped up onto the card. So we'll go just like that, and then I just want to straighten it up a hair so that it is straight to the words, and I think that's got it. All right, when I'm using something that needs to adhere to a 3D embossed panel, I do like to use a little bit more liquid glue just to make sure it gets down into the grooves, because there is a lot of texture and dimension on these. All right, so there is that. You could emboss this piece of wild wheat if you wanted to, but certainly it's not necessary. You could just kind of change it up however you like. This layout is really just kind of a jumping off point. And I did get this, I believe this was a sketch from the annual catalog. So not my own creation, but I think it turned out really cute, and it's a simple way to add some variety to the card. All right, I gotta turn this sideways so that I can see to line that up. All right, and some dimensionals for this. I'm going to have to grab another sheet of dimensionals here in just a minute. But 3 for a circle is typically more than sufficient. All right, and then we'll just put this just down like that. And then we need some of our classic matte dots. And I felt like the vanilla ones worked really nicely for this project. So I just need to grab my take your pick tool. And it's funny, they look really vanilla on the just the pack, but then, and I guess right next to the white, but then when you put them on the project, I almost wasn't sure I hadn't used the white ones. All right, so there is that first project. And like I said, that one's probably the simplest. Next we have Sending you sunny thoughts. And this one, actually this one's pretty simple too. It does more of a punch art kind of thing with the builder punch. So I thought that was a nice way to learn how to use those builder punches. So we're going to change out the sentiment. Sending you sunny thoughts just sounds so cheerful, and you can use it for just about anything, which is always nice. So we will line that up on there. And for these longer photopolymer stamps, I really like doing it like this, where I make sure that it's straight on my scrap paper, grid paper, and then I pick it up with my block, and that just allows me to keep the stamp from bending or curving. Excuse me. All right, so this is going to go goodness, just like that. And this will adhere to the black Radiating Stitches die. So these Radiating Stitches dies came out, I think, in the spring, and they are just so fun. I really like that they are standalone dies, and they have a heart and circles, and you just kind of have some accent pieces to work with there. All right, so I'm going to put these wheel wells on with a little bit of liquid glue. You could also, because they're so small, do just a couple of glue dots if you felt like that was easier. Again, it's not necessarily one way better than another. All right, so for this one, I did not add tires to it because I just didn't feel like it needed it. But if your truck was a different color, then you might want to. So we'll get that on there. Just get that back just a hair so you can see the front of the truck. And then get this window. And the window does have, definite top and bottom. So we'll stick that on there. All right. And we're going to pop this up onto our card. Well, onto our die cuts. I need some snips quickly. And do that. I'm just going to cut this really quickly so that we're good to go. All right, peel off the backings. And we'll just center this little guy on our panel. Okay, so there's that. And now we just need to finish putting the card together. I used the holographic paper from the Reach for the Stars collection for the window and tire bits. Not tire card wheel well. Oh my goodness. All right, so just in case you're wondering where all the bits come from. Okay. And that's going to go just like so. And then this will adhere right on top. I am typically only willing to do one layer of dimensionals on projects, and that just keeps it a little bit more affordable to mail, especially as postage rates keep going up. And then the last thing I'm going to do is take this strip and just going to adhere it to the inside of the card to carry that theme through. All right, and then once this is good and adhered, I can come back and snip this off. And probably we're good to just get that done. All right, so second project down. Next up, we have some watercoloring. So I have a piece of watercolor paper here, and then all these other bits we'll do here in just a minute. So the first thing that I want to do on here is just okay. Sorry about that. Got a phone call. Would have silenced my phone, but I needed that call. So anyway, all right, this one is watercoloring. So what I'm going to do is first just give myself kind of a little watercolor wash in a rectangle. And what I mean by that is that I'm literally just going to paint water onto my cardstock in a rectangle so it kind of follows the size of not the size, but the proportions of my rectangle. And then I'm going to grab my boho blue ink and squeeze some ink into the lid. And then I just want to pick that up here. And I'm going to squeeze a little more water out just to make sure that I'm really where I want to be. Now that dripped where I didn't want it, so I'm going to dry that off. All right, and then we'll just keep adding little bits of ink until I feel like we've got a nice sky showing. This is one of those, like, I could make myself crazy, but I'm determined to just keep it simple. All right, you can also, if you want it to be a little bit, if you want to pick up a little bit of the water and ink, you can do that. Say I got it darker than I wanted towards the bottom there. Okay, I think I'm good with the blue. Now I'm going to pick up some Daffodil Delight. And of course I want to clean my brush before I do that. So I'm just going to squeeze some more water out. Make sure that that's good and clean, and then I want to put some water down at the bottom here, and there's still some blue ink, so it's going to make some green, but that's what we were going for anyway, so it's going to be okay. All right, so picking up some yellow and just going to go across the bottom with it, and then as I pull it up, it will start to bleed with that boho blue. And I don't want green down towards the bottom, so I am just making sure that I clean my brush periodically, and I'm just moving up. Okay. And you can see this is not going to end up looking at all like my sample. Watercoloring will be different for you every single time, and that's kind of what makes it so entertaining. All right, so I just want to pull a little bit of the extra water off of here now. Okay, so that is what we are going to do there. Now I want this to dry, so we're going to do some other work for this project. So I'm going to dry up some of my mess and let that sit. Now what I want to do is bring in my little scrap of basic white. Although now that I look at it, I think that might have been watercolor paper. So we'll do this just a little bit differently, which will be good anyway. Okay, so I want to stamp my truck again on my scrap of white. And as I'm thinking, I really do just want to do it on watercolor paper, so grab this and stamp right there. Okay, so now we've got our black truck outline. What we want to do is grab, there it is. Grab some cherry cobbler ink and, goodness, we're running out of space. I'm going to grab my little detail brush here and again just squeeze some water to get that brush wet. And then I want to get a little bit of water in the truck. Oh, and you know what? Here's a good learning opportunity. I did it in Memento and that doesn't work. So what we're going to do is get the water off of that. Flip this around. We're going to do this in heat embossing. So let me clean that truck and grab my Versamark. Okay, so we will stamp that. And yes, I should have used my, what do you call that thing? My embossing buddy, but I didn't, and it's going to be fine. So I'm just going to pick up some black powder, hopefully not get it all over my watercoloring as well. I should probably set that off to the side. And there's a little bit in the window that I don't like, so I'm just going to use, okay, I think that will work now. Going to grab my heat tool, heat it up away from my watercolor paper just so that I don't scorch it. And now I can emboss this. Yes, this is dangerous. I'm not doing this in the steps that I would normally recommend. I should have closed my embossing powder first and closed my ink pad as well. But it should be fine. I think that will do. Oops. Now we can get rid of the black powder. We're going to do a little bit more heat embossing once we have our background dry. Okay, so now what I was trying to do is paint the truck. And I'm just going to paint all of the parts that would be metal. I'm trying not to get the back windshield or the side window. So by getting it wet first, I'm going to allow the color to kind of bleed out and move around without getting any of the really bad blotches of color. So that's my goal. Watercoloring is still something that I am working to learn. So I do not claim to be an expert at it, but there are certainly some tips I've picked up on, as kind of on the way. And depending on whether you use your re-inker or your ink pad, like I've done, you'll have different depths of color, I guess, vibrancies. So you just kind of have to decide what look you're going for. And you can see that this is filling in where I had already gotten it wet. I did not paint the wheels, so theoretically it will not go onto the wheels. And this is already dried a little bit, so I'm going to squeeze some more water out here. I really love how this truck looks so vintage and just has that farm kind of feel to it. So just keep adding color until you have a look that you're happy with. Okay. I'm pretty sure that I used the re-inker on my original sample because it is a lot richer color. All right, I'm going to clean out this brush. Sometimes the red will stain your bristles, and that's okay. You just want to make sure that what's coming out is clear. So I actually tend to wash those in the sink just to really, really get them clean. Now what I want to do, this is almost dry, but not completely. So I'm going to take a dry part of my rag and just blot extra water off of there. And before I set my heat tool to it, I'm actually just going to take this is like my medium brush. The water painters come as a set of 3. All right, so I just want to drop little bits of water on here just to get a little more interest. I don't love how there's this line right there, so I can actually add more water there and get rid of that. And sometimes when you do that, you get kind of blotches, but I think that works better when it's wetter before you start trying to add. Okay, so I think that's probably as much patience as I have for watercoloring today. So I'm going to dry this. If you dry it from both sides, then that will help keep it from being so warped from the water. And then if you do have excess water on it, you want to make sure that you keep it level so that it doesn't bleed. Or run, I guess would be the better word for that. Okay, so that feels like it's good. I'm going to go ahead and dry my truck here. Now you can see there is a puddle of water still. So I just want to be really careful with that and make sure that I don't run it out of the heat embossed lines. And actually that can create some interesting texture. Okay. Oh, still kind of wet. So the one downside to doing that is that the embossing powder can kind of re-melt. So I'm going to give that a few minutes while we come over here and do some more work on this. And I think that I had stamped originally in either Pebbled Path or Pumpkin Pie, but I'm going to, I think I'm just going to do it in Memento Black here with that Sending Sunny Thoughts again, because again, that is a sentiment that you can use for all sorts of occasions. So we will stamp that just right down there at the bottom. And now I want to punch out my truck. Watercolor paper being a little bit thicker than regular cardstock, you may just notice that punching is a little bit tougher, but it shouldn't be a problem. Okay, and put that away, flip our truck over and get rid of the bits that we don't need. And before I adhere my truck on, I'm going to grab my dark basic black and just color my tires. And that was kind of a big look for a while to have the white wheel walls, I think. So I feel like that really looks good there. You can see my red bled a little bit onto the tire. I could try to clean that up, but I think I'm just going to leave it alone. Now what I want to do is sort of figure out where this is going to sit. And then I don't love that you can see the yellow below the truck. So I am just going to grab, let's do some smoky slate to kind of ground our truck here. So we'll go like that. And our little truck can sit right on there. Okay, now I want to stamp the palm trees onto the back of the truck. So I'm going to do that same thing where I use my punch to gauge where I want it to go, and then I'll just pull it out of the way. And I go just like that. And then we can fill in the trees with some mossy meadow. And that will just do the tree. So we'll still have the surfboard that we'll want to touch up with a little bit of color too. So you would want to stamp in StazOn if you didn't want the ink to bleed when it touched water. At this point, there won't be any more water on this panel, so I don't have to worry about that, and I can go ahead and use my regular inks. Some people say that you don't want to use StazOn with photopolymer because it breaks it down. That is not something that I have ever stamped enough to experience, but certainly it is something to take into consideration. So now that that is all stamped, we can just grab our blends, and I'm going to go ahead and use my Cherry Cobbler blend. I didn't do this the same way on my sample, but I think that it will look nice to have a little red surfboard in here. And we've got a beach ball that we can color with our Tahitian Tide. This could be like one of the rescue buoy things too, if you wanted to go that route with it, but it's really just whatever colors you want to do. So I think we'll go blue and maybe some Tahitian, or no, parakeet party would look fun. So we'll get those in there and then get that little, there we go, and they are ready to go to the beach. So this is going to end up popped up on here, but first I want to give a couple of clouds to this sky. So I'm going to take the cloud filler stamp and my Versamark ink and my white embossing powder. And this time I'm going to remember that I want to do a little bit of that embossing buddy. I'm going to do 2 clouds. Now it's a little bit tough to see where the Versamark is, so you just want to kind of remember what you did. And we'll go down here, close that up. I'm showing such better technique with this project than with the truck embossing that I did earlier. All right, now I'm going to pick up some powder here. I want to move it around until my trees are good, not trees, clouds. And then just flick off any excess. And now we can heat this up. And this panel doesn't have any other heat embossing that I need to worry about possibly melting. So watch for that transition. There we go, that looks good. We are done with the heat embossing now. And we need a couple of dimensionals for this little truck. And because it is on watercolor paper that has warped just a hair, I'm going to use more dimensionals than I might normally. So get these out of the way. Go just like that. Okay, so that is our panel. Now I'm just going to put all of this together. This is just my card liner, and I've got another strip of designer series paper to use on it. And do just like that. Okay. Now, I always like to do my seal for the inside basic white panel. If you've watched me for long, you've probably noticed that that is the one thing that I'm picky about, and I just feel like my liquid glue application causes it to show through. So I'll go ahead and fold this and tuck it right in. There we go. All right, get this glued on. And you can see I'm using all the back sides that don't really look fishy. The one that was on our punch art card does look a little more like something you would see out fishing, but I don't think that it has to be. Get that on, find my bone folder in here so that I can really burnish this score line and let it stay closed a little better. And now we can do some liquid glue on here. You can see where my blends bled through, which is what you expect. And we'll center this up on here like so. And I do just want to let that glue really set before I take my hands off because it is watercolor paper. All right, so there is our third project. We just need to add some dots to it. And for this one, I felt like just right here on the edge looked fun. All right. And for our final project, we've got this cute little card, which special delivery of some flowers I thought was fun. So, let's see what pieces are in the project kit. This one is a mat for this one. And then this is the card liner. So just to clear things up a little bit, I'm gonna go ahead and get this put together. Too many pieces floating around. And then this project has quite a bit of stamping that all the two-step stamping and everything. So I really wanted to showcase all the different ways that you could use this stamp set because it's just really quite versatile, which is fun. Trim off that little bit there. And then put this on the inside. Okay. Now with this cute gingham pattern, makes a nice background. All right, and now we'll just do a bunch of our stamping on this white panel. And I'm going to need some different sentiments and stamps. So get everything cleaned. And I want, let's see, we'll start actually by doing some blending brush ink application. And stamp some of the road and some grass. And then we'll have trees as well. Let's see. So we'll start with that. I need goodness, can't find any of the right blending brushes. Okay, so let's start by making sure that this is relatively clean. You can see it does have a little bit of ink on here from the last time I did some blue. I think that's actually enough. I don't need to re-ink it. And then I want to pick up a little bit of black here for the road. And I'll do just like that. Oh, I actually still want use that in a minute. Okay, so I've got my pecan pie ink because this is pecan pie. So I'm going to do my trees in pecan pie as well. And we'll just kind of eyeball where we want these. This last one's going to come off the edge a little bit. And so that is it for the pecan pie. So you could totally use, an early espresso or another brown that you had on hand. And we'll grab the filler stamp for this one and some Mossy Meadow ink. Get that lined up. And now we'll grab some grass, the little squiggles, and just ground our tree. There we go. And we'll do some black ink to get, we need a sentiment and the road lines with our memento. So, like I said, this one has a lot more stamping than some of the others, but that's kind of fun. I've been realizing that I use all these beautiful papers, and so I don't actually end up stamping a ton sometimes. All right, so get some road. Kind of looking like that. Oh, I still want the sentiment too. So special delivery. And this is great for anything if you wanted to include it with a birthday present or just special delivery of some happy news or congratulations, anything like that. So we'll get that there. And I think we'll go ahead and do our truck in black as well. Get that inked up better. Okay, so we're going to do that. And then I also need my little flowers. And I'm just going to fussy cut them out on here once they're all stamped. So, done with our memento. This is one where having lots and lots of blocks is nice. Okay, so I don't think that our truck needs to be any particular color to go with this card, but I did do smoky slate for the first one. I think we'll probably just go ahead and do that again, although we could do a blue truck. Maybe that would, well, with what's in the truck bed, I think we'll stick to the smoky slate. All right, so this one you just line it all up with your outline, and then I did apparently managed to ink up the windows, so this truck's got some tinted windows, which is fine. I'm not usually live for this long, you guys, or doing a video, whatever, whichever state you're watching it. And by the way, I do really appreciate you taking the time to watch this. This was a slightly more involved set of projects, and so I'm glad that I am able to actually demonstrate them for you, just because some of the little tricks might not be readily apparent. So lining up my tires, There's that. And the last thing that I want to do is stamp my flower filler with, let's see, I'm going to do cherry cobbler. And this one is going to go, it's really hard to see these little bits, so it doesn't really matter if it's perfectly lined up. And mine definitely did not make it. All right, now I'm going to bring my Tahitian Tide blend in again, and I'm not doing anything fancy here. I'm just getting some color down on these pails. And now what I want to do is grab my snips and just cut this out. Sorry, didn't realize I was off screen. So anytime you're fussy cutting, it's a lot easier if you get rid of as much of the excess as you can before you start trying to do the detail work. So make sure I'm relatively happy with that. Now we can come over here and punch out this truck. Again, totally fussy cuttable, but for the sake of time, just going to use our little punch. And then what I want to do is add just a little bit of glue right at the very top of the truck bed here. And stick my pots in the truck bed. So that's how that's going to turn out. And now we can go ahead and adhere this to our vanilla mat. And I don't normally use vanilla and white together, but I feel like it worked nicely here, especially with having added some of the ink to make the white not quite so harsh. And we will do that. This truck gets popped up with dimensionals. And then we'll adhere this directly to the card. Okay, pop these backings off. So I hope that you have enjoyed seeing these projects and that you will make them for yourself. I had a lot of fun designing them, and just going to clean up a little bit. I did do a couple of dots on the centers of the tires here. So we'll do that again. Just gives it a cute little bit of texture there. All right, so I'm going to bring in the projects that we made today. And if you have any questions about these or about your kits, please let me know. I hope that you have enjoyed seeing these, and I look forward to stamping with you again. I really appreciate your support and your loyalty to my small business, and I will be back soon with more projects for you. Thanks so much. Bye.